Yeah. Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen.
Happy Monday. We're
boys
back.
and girls. How's everybody feeling?
No tariff talk, so the market is
easy.
stable.
You never know. You never know. Anything can happen at any time. But Friday, we didn't have as many tariff talks. We saw a nice rebound, even though it was another down week, the third down week for the Dow. NASDAQ has had one of its worst weeks since 2023. So there's a correlation here, but everybody's still circling April 2nd as that day, as the day that tariffs will go into effect. So we're just going to keep that in mind. But until that day, let's keep our head up and our eyes open when it comes to the market.
Yes,
for sure. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. A lot to talk about, and big week. We got Blackout. Special guest, we got Dr. Cheyenne Bryant coming on Blackout.
Very fitting.
Legend.
All you relationship gurus.
She's been tearing up the game. You know, somebody that goes viral, feel like every time she talks, and has a lot to say about relationships. So check that out, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Got some other stuff we'll probably talk about throughout the course of the show. Ian, any announcements you want to say?
No stock club call this week. We will be going live from a undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location.
Gotcha. If you want to get rich from the market, go to ianinvest.com. Shout out to everybody who joined Red Panda Stock Club. I've been putting like 5 or 6 updates a day in Telegram. The replay is in Telegram. Stock club prices are out. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. Love y'all dearly, and see y'all fellas this week at an undisclosed the Illuminati meeting.
Yes.
And yes, shout out to everybody that took advantage of Stock Club. We have extended it for 24 hours because there was some people that wanted to do it on Friday. And there was some technical difficulty, so we extended it for 24 hours today. But that's it. After that, it will be done. So that's ianinvest.com, and that's 50% off Stock Club and 3 years of Sniper. And anything else you want to talk about Stock Club as far as like the email or whatever?
If you joined in the last 24, 48 hours, if you haven't been logged in, you should be logged in by now. So check your spam. We will start to go live twice a week. One day will be a random day, but we normally do the Stock Club on Monday nights, but given travel, we won't be doing it this week. But a lot of amazing updates and some insights on trading will be in there, and some entries for trading will be posted next week. So if you want to know how to invest into the market and never have to guess about where to get in, join the Stock Club.
There you have it. Y'all. 1 day left. ianinvest.com. Disclaimer?
Yeah. Before we do that, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our earners inside of EYLU. It was our national earners meetup. So shout out to all the earners throughout the country that put on and had a great meeting. I know we did one in Houston. Shout out to everybody in Michigan, New York. Our EYU investment group was in there. Shout out to D in Austin. They were the special guests. Shout out to everybody in the Carolinas, DMV, Tampa, Chicago, and South Florida. It was all over the place, man. So shout out to everybody inside of EYLU. Keep going. We got some special stuff from an undisclosed location that we will be showing y'all a little bit later. But yeah, man, y'all know how this goes. This is the disclaimer. Do your own research. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important to do your own analysis before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently research and verify any information that you find on our show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. Y'all know how this works. Do the research, share the research, give credit when you find the research, build community, spread love. Let's make some money.
Next year, we're doing 2 and 20, though. We're going to let y'all live this year. But next year, 2 and 20, for sure.
So, we talk about the S&P a lot, but for the Dow Jones, right? The Dow Jones peaked at around 45,000 and is hovering around like 41.6 now. So as far as like prices, where people should start to look at entry points and as using the Dow Jones as an indicator to really, look at the market. What is the price as far as the Dow Jones is concerned?
Yeah, and the first thing I want to say, I know we've had a drop that was pretty damn scary. Even in our Telegram, a couple people hit me like, damn, I didn't join for all this doom and gloom. It's not doom and gloom. I'm just making you aware of where we are in terms of the cycle, because it's actually a great buying opportunity. So if you're looking at the Dow, 40,244 is the area I would be looking to buy. So $40,244 is the area I will be looking to buy the Dow. And for all of you who like SPOG, any of the cheaper SPY or Dow equivalents, that's fine as well. But the Dow should go up. And the biggest thing I want to stress over what's happened over the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks is that you have to focus on where to buy based on asymmetry. So meaning you don't want to buy the high. So if we're at the high is 45,000, I don't want to buy 44,950. I want to wait until it drops into a price point where everyone else is panicking. People are panicking. Also, once again, you can use the fear and greed index to gauge where we are. So when we are in extreme fear, that's the time you can look to buy. Or if the VIX gets above a certain level, you can look to buy them. But 40,244 is where I like to buy the Dow. And another important lesson in the United States stock market, whenever we've had a correction or a crash, we have recovered 100% of the time. Now, whether it's through financial engineering or quantitative easing, that's another conversation for another day. But America has one of the only markets that recovers 100% of the time. Japan, China, different instances. But our market for every crash or correction has recovered, usually within 8 months. In modern times, the longest time, but 2020, it was a matter of weeks. We were back to record territory. So don't worry, buy at the right time, you'll be A-okay.
Yeah. And if you're buying the Dow from the Spider Fund DIA, that sounds pretty consistent. If you look at the support level, first, second level of support is around 410 and 409 average. And then that resistance starts to hit around 417, 419. So that's not, if you correlate that to the actual Dow Jones 41,000, it's probably right in line with what you're saying as well.
And I think it's important to highlight this because there are some probably new listeners for the first time, maybe. Stocks always recover, but every single stock doesn't always recover. So
great point. Yes.
That's why it's important to, once again, the safest route is an index fund. That's why when he says 2 tech, 2 index, right? Like an index fund, now you're invested in the entire stock market, whether it's VOO or S&P 500. Now, S&P 500 is 500 companies, but it's still kind of like a microcosm of the entire stock market. Or an ETF, which allows you to have broad range exposure in one area. Like QQQ gives you all of the technology companies, right? So that's safer.
Yeah.
It's always safer because, the stock market always goes up, but individual stocks do not always go up. Some stocks have been down for 10 years.
Marijuana stocks, Tilray. Sorry.
We're on 5 now.
Yeah. So just because you think you're putting your money into a stock and your theory is that, okay, it's down, but I'm not going to worry about it because stocks always go up, that doesn't mean that your particular stock is always going to go up.
Yeah. And that's why we talk indexes, and then the next thing would be the ETFs, because it might just be a sector that's moving. So for the past 5 years, we've seen that technology and specifically semiconductors have led that charge inside of technology. So you get an ETF inside there. So whether it's a SMH or it's a SOX, which tracks those and they move according to how those are performing, right? So NVIDIA is going to be leading at SMH. That makes sense because of where NVIDIA is at. You can watch as those movements are being made inside of the ETF. That might be companies that you should be looking at because they're moving, right? They have actually shown growth. Whereas a sector, I don't know, consumer discretionary or XLY would be another ETF where it's like, wait, this hasn't moved the same way as an XLK because of the technology stocks that are inside of there. So always good to look at it on a large scale than in a macro scale. Okay, the market is moving, right? The Dow and the S&P is moving. Well, what is moving it? And then you can fine tune it.
For sure. And I've been very critical of Google, but this weekend I was playing with some of the AI tools.
We appreciate
it. Gotta give you credit, Claude. That new update. Sam Altman. I don't know who, like when Fat Joe found Pun's rhyme book. Sam Altman, you better go find that AI code and do some vibe coding. Google.
Yeah.
Well played. Fight back. I'm proud of you.
Good old Sam.
Yes.
So talking about Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway.
Mhm.
Berkshire Hathaway may sell its real estate business. So why would they sell their real estate business? And is this a sign that there's going to be a real estate crash?
I don't want to say crash because I don't want all of real estate and mortgage professionals coming after me. And I know some people are saying it is succession planning for Berkshire in case Warren passes. He's at the later stages of life. But if you have a business that is incredibly profitable, wouldn't it behoove you to turn over a book of business in real estate to the new CEO to keep the price of the stock up incredibly high? I know there's a certain subgroup of investors who doesn't think Warren Buffett is the greatest of all time. For the record, he is. This is concerning. I'm going to come in calm and measured. I'm on my Rashad Bilal with the glasses vibe, calm and measured. But if this asset, and a couple of people, shout out to y'all in Nebraska, there's some rumblings, they're getting rid of some of those doors they own as well. So I'm going to monitor the situation.
We got, the Berkshire over the past 4 weeks, I know the market is taking a hit. It's the only thing that's been positive. So he's doing something. They're doing something right over there.
And his net worth has went up during this crash.
Exactly. And he has a stockpile of $334 billion. We'll yet to see where that's going. But the real estate part of the portfolio, it sounds like a sneeze. It's $4.4 billion of it. Not a sneeze, but in terms of their asset management, it is a sneeze. But I mean, CNBC wrote a great article about how in the early 80s he bought newspapers because he thought that business was indestructible. We'd always need it. And in the early 2000s, he realized that, times have changed. And so my investment strategy needs to change. And so there was a comparison between that and his investment strategy. So the reasons why that they potentially may let it go, it's a couple. I mean, and we know these, right? They're saying that the housing market has softened, buyers face higher mortgage rates, elevated prices, and limited number of listings. And then the pending home sales dropped in January to 4.6%, the lowest since January of 2001, which doesn't sound as encouraging.
Well, those numbers aren't very encouraging.
They're not very encouraging.
They are encouraging
for
landlords.
For landlords, I'm talking.
They're very encouraging
for that side of it.
He's a landlord.
That's what I'm saying.
So they're encouraging.
But for him, he's looking at it like for his side, he's looking at it like if that business isn't growing, if home sales are slowing, right, and we're not having new builds, and we don't have control of interest rates, and there's uncertainty inside of this present economy, is this now a good time to say let's let go a little bit of this portfolio?
You can never question Warren Buffett because he's the greatest.
I'm just throwing it hypothetically out there.
He's the greatest of all time.
True.
And he might say, okay, I'm gonna make more money in gold than I'm gonna make in housing real estate for the next 10 years. I don't know. But those numbers that you just described are encouraging
incredibly favorable. Right?
If there's less homes being built, less people are getting mortgages, interest rates are high. Well, what does that mean? That people got to live somewhere. So that means that people are not buying homes at the rate, and they're probably going to continue to buy less and less homes because it's going to become too affordable. It's going to be too unaffordable for them to buy homes. That means that they're going to have to rent. We talked about a renter society to the point some people say almost 80% of the population at some point could be renters, right? So the people that actually own the places that they're renting from, I mean, now you have no option. So I got 5 different people that want to rent my apartment. Who's going to pay the most? Who's the most qualified? Who got the highest credit score? That is beneficial for landlords.
Or what if you don't have a market that can actually afford to live in these places?
Well, I mean, if everybody has to rent, there's going to be some people that can afford it.
Or that price could potentially drive down the prices, right? Because if you don't have occupancy and people can't buy, and you have a large portfolio of homes that nobody is actually going to live in or again purchase.
Well, rent
on
price,
a large scale, on a macro, yes, on a macro scale, if it's an individual, this is like you're talking about a huge portfolio of potential vacancy.
Rent prices in Manhattan reached all-time highs last month. Rent prices across America have gone up, especially in all major cities, Miami, Los Angeles. I mean, the indicating trend is that rent prices are going up. There's no indicating
At what
trend.
point were they correct though?
Oh, they're correct at some point. It's like anything. It's like style. Everything has a correction, but
Sure.
the acceleration of it has been tremendous as far as rent, right? So I don't think the correction.
2020, my God.
Like I just saw that yesterday. Manhattan real estate last month has reached the highest level that has ever reached as far as rent ever.
What's that? 6,500.
They said 4,500, but that number's a little skewed because it gauges the whole island of Manhattan. So you got all the way uptown, but as far as probably midtown down to downtown, yeah, it'd probably be like 4,500 for one bedroom, by the way. So it'd probably be around 6,000, 6,500 for one bedroom. If you take out Harlem and you take out all the way uptown, it'll probably be around $6,500 for one bedroom. That's a good business to be in.
It's a lot of chopped cheese, yo.
Just sold his apartment. Byron Allen just sold his apartment for $85 million, the largest sale of an apartment this year in New York City. $85 million for an apartment. That's not even the highest listing apartment in the building.
Great point. Buffett normally is a laggard when it comes to investing into a sector.
Yeah,
but he has incredible timing of when to exit a market.
Right.
So the fact, and if he hedged off and broke off some of the business and kept 20% of it, 30%, but to liquidate all of the real estate brokerage, made my eyebrows raise a little bit as to why.
The portfolio grossed a net profit of $100 million in 2022. That went down to $13 million in 2023, and they suffered a net loss of $113 million in 2024.
Gotta go. That's why
it's also important to realize the real estate that he owns too. You know, he's one of the largest owners of trailer parks.
For sure.
So, and he has a lot of real estate in Midwest. So,
yes, that's
like all things. It's a lot. The number one rule in real estate is location. So, I think that his market, particularly the trailer park, like the lower income type situation like that might be hurting because it's not in prime locations. Those people are struggling even more than coastal communities. But most people live in coastal communities.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. What you were saying, like you're talking about the major cities, but the large ones, and you kind of nailed it. The large majority of the portfolio doesn't exist inside of New York City or Miami or in LA.
Mistake.
Yeah, it's Omaha.
That's like him missing out on Apple and early on, and Microsoft early on, given his relationship with Gates. So I agree. Client selection, and city selection matters a hell of a lot. So great point, Rashad and Troy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If your business isn't growing, what's it doing?
That's why I asked how many times he gets the fumble on stage?
Yeah, $100 million to 13 to negative.
First time you messed up, you gotta go.
Yeah,
cut losses quickly.
But it is important just to say, like, it's nuanced conversation, because when people see Warren Buffett did something, it's like he sold stock market's going to crash. He stole real estate's going to crash. It's nuanced. It's the location. It's trailer parks. I think overall, the people that's still enthusiastic about real estate, they have a reason to still be enthusiastic about real estate.
Yeah, but that's what I say. Like you said, it's timing with him.
And there's a shorting of houses in America.
That's what he's saying. Like it's timing with him, right? So
locations.
Yeah. we don't get privy to the information of his moves until a week, 3 weeks, 6 months after it's happened, right? And so when you see a sell-off in his Apple shares, when you see a sell-off in some of his Coca-Cola shares, and you see acquisition inside Occidental Oil, it's like, all right. And then 6 months later, a year later, you see why he made that move. Right now, you're holding $334 billion. Well, the market has pulled back. Is it now time that he started investing last week, or they started moving that to other assets? It's all timing with him, and he's proven time after time that he's a wizard when it comes to this.
He also has made some very questionable decisions as far as
such as,
well, he didn't buy. He didn't believe in the technology companies.
Which?
Any of them. In the .com era, he didn't believe in the technology companies. He was late to the party on that. And
Well, for sure, he's a laggard.
He got the right one.
Years later, though. But I'm saying he had an opportunity early.
Yeah.
He didn't believe in
he could have
technology.
got Microsoft in 95, I think.
Now,
or
he was right
96.
in the sense of a lot of those .com companies ended up failing.
Yeah, I'm just
But a lot of them became Microsoft, Apple, all of those companies today.
Oracle.
He was late. He's also said that he wouldn't take Bitcoin for anything. That, as of right now, that's been a wrong thing to say.
As of now, yes.
At 15 years in.
Well, given the capital size, not the cape for him, but what if for the dollar amount he was going to put in, the issue would be the liquidation of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, his thing, he said, I wouldn't buy all the Bitcoin in the world for $25. So I think what he's saying is,
that's crazy. Yeah.
from a psychological standpoint, he's a value investor. He doesn't see value in cryptocurrency. So he would not invest. No, he's like, no matter how much it gets, even if it's worth $1 million, technically it's worth nothing, because in his mind, he doesn't see use case. He doesn't see the value in Bitcoin. It has no value for him. It has no intrinsic value.
Yeah, that's always been his case. That's his stance. He hasn't budged on that. And when his partner was alive, rest in peace, Charlie Munger, he was even more of a bear on it. Right. So those two together, they've never switched on that to the day he died. And even now, Warren hasn't changed on it either.
But as of right now, he would be. That's not. You can theoretically say it has no intrinsic value. You can theoretically say gold has no intrinsic value. You could theoretically say the US dollar has no intrinsic value. A variety of things have no real intrinsic value.
Yeah.
But
does it have the same value if the hedge funds and government was not buying it?
Bitcoin? No, but gold wouldn't have the same value if everybody wasn't buying it either. Right? I mean, I know that there's some people in the world that's like, yeah, gold has but most people are not using gold for
transactions. Yeah,
exactly.
For the OnlyFans subscription.
Yeah. Like gold, like oil has intrinsic value, right?
For sure.
Like it has a use case that you actually use it for, and there's a variety of different elements that have use cases that this is really, really important to the world. Gold's not really important to the world. Most people hoard it. They don't use it for any level of functioning. They just have it stored, or they have it on their necklace or a watch.
Yeah.
The value is what we put on it.
True.
Like one guy, he was saying, he was like, well, gold, his argument was that Bitcoin is going to go to zero because it has no value. And they was like, what about gold? And he was like, gold has value. And they're like, why does gold have value? And he's like, because gold has been used in currency since the beginning of time. Like for tens of thousands of years, gold has been used as currency. That's his argument. Oh, that's not really a great argument to me.
It's a bad argument.
Yeah. Because you're just replacing one thing that has no value, but only just because this has thousands of a track record.
Yeah.
Now that makes it valuable.
Yeah, the government agencies decide which currencies or instruments have value, for the record. So, yeah, in that case, it's a bad argument for sure.
But we'll see. We'll see. Warren Buffett, like I said, he's the greatest. So maybe Bitcoin will go to zero at some point. But until then,
well, no, not with Vanguard and BlackRock buying all of it up, and
not gonna happen.
Until then,
yeah.
You can't argue with the greatest investment return of all time. That's hard to argue with.
The greatest investor and the greatest investment. Yo, the opposite sides of this thing.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the Mag 7 being on sale, which two outside of Apple and Microsoft would you consider to invest in that, and at what price?
Number one, let's go with Meta. Shout out to Zuckerberg and that rebrand. The onesie at the wife's party was crazy, but kudos to the love. I like Meta at 538.46. Elon, you got to go get you a little Black Lives Matter hoodie or something and do a rebrand. Like
at what price?
At 538.46. And then I like Tesla at 190.29. Tesla needs a whole rebrand, and Elon needs to. I know he won't, but he needs to get off this Kanye train. So they've had the deepest fall in the Max 7. You know, it's bad when Germany said they're done buying Teslas, and part of that movement started in Germany. It's tough. Like, you cannot offend a worldwide audience with your neo-Nazi favoritism. So, but at 190.29, I think there's some incredible value there. I don't know how long the company will thrive given his leanings over the last 4 or 5 months, but 190.29 is a price that I like Tesla. For all of you who be like, yo, what happened? You all giving prices on market, join Stock Club. But for this week,
so you like so what about Tesla? What makes Tesla something that you like?
Yo, I'm just giving the two out because they're gonna be like, well, you always do Apple or Microsoft. I'm not pro MAGA or pro racism. Clearly, I'm a black man in the United States of America. And they've had the deepest decline, I think, from the high through this fall. I think they've fallen 51%. Yeah, so they have the highest probability of
you said, but you said 120. You said 129, right?
190.29.
Oh, 190.29. All right,
190.29.
All right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, 129 would be crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, that's a hell of a fall.
So do you think that is going to get hurt by the administration's anti-EV policies?
For sure.
And tariffs.
What? I mean, the guy, didn't they put the Cybertruck and the Model S in front of the White House over there?
Richard Nixon would never. Mitt Romney would have never. George W. Bush wouldn't. What? We turned the White House into a damn car show?
That was crazy.
Cool. I've said this from the very beginning. I give it 18 months. So we got 15 months left to that relationship is good. And I said it before a couple years ago. I think it was a mistake from them to leave that luxury brand to go to pricing for all. Profit margin, word of the week, matters a lot. And when people are underwater in those loans for the car, and now you have dealerships being vandalized because of racist sentiments by white people, which is fascinating to see. It won't do well for the stock market. So whenever you're running a publicly traded company, it helps a lot to not add weaknesses and threats to that SWOT analysis, and he's doing that, it seems like, every month. Is there value there? Yes. Would they be as dominant as they used to be? I don't think so. I don't think the appeal is there anymore. But at 190.29, I like it. I like it a lot.
You got two. I had Meta, so I'll switch it up. I always throw an extra one just in case you say it. But I like Meta. I mean, you didn't say Nvidia, but I feel like that's kind of the obvious, right? Like, Nvidia, it got to a point where I was like, I gotta grab it. It got down to 107 was my number. It got down to 105, so we grabbed some shares there. Obviously, we saw it shoot up. Big week for them with GTC happening this week, big announcements, and then Thursday they got the big quantum day. So that should be one of those catalyst events. We'll see how the market moves. This isn't a Mag 7, but it should be. I think when they reclassify this thing, I know China has now dubbed their stocks the Fab Four with Alibaba, Tencent.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're Fab Four. I'm gonna put Netflix in there. I'm gonna put Netflix. It actually got down to a price. I wanted to see it get down to like 853. It got down to 870. So we grabbed some shares there. I mean, upgrade after upgrade. We saw what it's doing in terms of live events. Shout out to the Netflix family.
I was like, hey, y'all
they invited us to Monday Night Raw. We got to see live events in person, state of the art, just a classy service. I mean, it was incredible, and the Netflix team took care of us. I'm not just saying it; we actually witnessed it. But you saw what happened during the Super Bowl. You saw what happened with the NFL and deals with them.
Yep.
ESPN is now about to lose UFC because Netflix potentially could come in. I like Netflix long term. I like them short term too. That pullback that they just had, they ran up to over 1,000, got down to 870. I think it was a great grab at 870. I took some shares there. So those would be my two.
Wait, UFC is going to do the pay-per-view events through Netflix?
There's some talks. Just talks.
Oh my God. Well, I'm a smart TKO group. Ari Emanuel, I'll see you.
TKO has been going crazy. Like if you watch that since I believe when Dwayne Johnson and the Rock is one of these guys is just like a sleeper. If you look what he's done inside the spirits world now, what he's doing inside as an advisor for TKO, that stock has been moving on the up and up since the merger.
Doing a great job.
Yeah, it's one of those sleepers. But yeah, man, we got to see it firsthand. It was like, all right, I get it. This is something. This is really something.
Okay.
Sade, shout out to you, Sade.
Did the NBA put their rights through Netflix? Or how long
The NBA signed a deal with Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're Amazon and Peacock.
Mm.
Yeah, that's and then they brought over some of the guys from TNT. I think they're gonna be doing some of the shows. So they did like a kind of a merger deal for that, just for them, for inside the NBA.
But I don't know if they have an exclusive deal with Amazon Peacock.
Who? The NBA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exclusive?
No. So they got partnerships. So ESPN still gets show games. Amazon gets games. They took it from TNT and TBS. And what's the last one I said? Amazon Peacock. Well, Peacock's NBC Universal. So yeah.
But I'm saying there's still some more games they could carve out though.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the WWE did deals with Netflix, but they still get shown on Peacock as well. And they still get distributed through other channels, but they're all streaming.
So they could potentially do a deal with Netflix.
They could. Yeah,
That
not saying they can.
Netflix over the top. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Netflix is doing a great job, especially getting the niche audiences and running them into the fold. But if they get an NBA deal,
yeah, I know the NBA's largest deal is with ESPN, Disney ABC group, and then obviously when they renegotiated, Amazon got a couple games and Peacock joined the group as well. I think for like playoffs and things like that, or Saturday night games. Yeah,
playoffs.
What? the real March Madness.
For real.
What are 3 recession-proof stocks that people can invest in to protect themselves from the downturn?
I know everyone is so concerned about if the market continues to collapse, but I think there's a few companies that will do well regardless. In the retail space, Costco, I love dearly, near and dear to my heart. Almost immovable regardless of what happens in the economy. Number 2, Nvidia. Love you guys dearly. Thank you. We'll never switch up on you. From the bottom of my heart. And Troy, your baby, I gotta give you credit. TSM. I keep saying that if TSM was primarily in America, headquartered in America,
we getting closer.
I would have been divorced you.
We're getting closer. It's getting closer to being American. Yeah. Every day.
Yes. So those are my 3.
This is it's an interesting question. Because if you look at the history, have we been in a recession before? We saw a brief one. And so what were the companies that thrived there? I'm glad you brought up the retail space. You brought up Costco because a lot of people would think Walmart. But it makes me think that one of my other ones, like TSM was my favorite. I think Amazon would probably be like 1B. Amazon would be one of those companies that I would definitely look in terms of, can they still thrive in that environment? And for sure. Right, we're 5 years removed from COVID, and we remember what our life was like when we just had to use Amazon.
Yeah. And
we were able to get everything. Right. And that's just from a retail space. But obviously what they can do inside the pharmaceutical space, they just, again, I mean, the branches under that tree of Amazon is just so vast that I think they thrive in any environment. P&G is another one. We're always going to need home items. It's one of those ones that's not sexy, but it's a stable company that has shown growth throughout the years. And I would put Netflix in there too. I think that would be my third.
Yeah. If it was cheaper, I would have mentioned it, but for sure, Netflix is Netflix the best subscription run business consumer facing ever? Like their numbers are insane.
Them and Apple. Yeah. Yeah. But as a singular product, that's the singular product, them.
Yeah.
Apple is kind of like the product is the phone and the subscription services just kind of get added on. But yeah, Netflix and the room for growth is there, right? You talk about from a global capacity, there's still countries that they haven't reached.
For sure. It's a lot of addressable markets they have not tapped into yet. And, if they get into allegedly podcasts and the streaming wars of content creators.
Yeah. And the CEO said they're not they're doubling down on the spending. I know that used to be how are they going to generate revenue from the original content space. Well, they've showed you. They've moved into live events. Now they're going to double down on more original content. So,
yeah,
scaling looks likely for them.
How you feel about Oscar?
I thought this was a great question, and I wanted to take some stocks that we have not talked about before. I see what you may see in the potential of this company, but I got to be very clear. As of right now, I hate it. All-time high, $35 in 2021. It's currently at $13. If you can get it at $3 or $4, I would not mind you swing trading it back up to 10 or 11. But as a long-term hold, this is a definite no. You can argue Hims, Hers, Lilly, of course, are much better. And then companies that are tech, health adjacent, Amazon, Apple, Novo are way better. I don't think Oscar's in the top 25. So for a long-term hold, no. If it's a trade, if you get it at $3 or $4 and route it up to 11, I'm good with that. But as a long-term hold, this is a definite no.
Yeah, it's in a tough spot. It's for those who are not to know, it's a leading healthcare technology company, and they operate individual healthcare insurance markets through the Affordable Care Act, which was Obamacare, which an administration that has now changed. And one of the campaign promises was we're going to get rid of that, even though there was no plan really laid out to how to get rid of it. What we've seen is in the first, we haven't hit 100 days yet, but the things that he said he was going to do, he's doing them.
Oh, he's shipping at anything Barack did.
Everything he said he's going to do, he's doing it. In fact, his approval rating is at its all-time high. NBC just put that out last night that his approval rating
Who's the approval rating?
Donnie.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, huh? But yeah,
imagine if he actually get some shit done. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think Oscar is in a good spot.
No, and they only reported $25 million net income. Like Soldier Boy should not have as much money as your investment in your portfolio. I'm good. Shots to Big Soldier, but no, I'm good on Oscar.
We're gonna say
Hers, Lilly, Novo. There's a bunch of others you can invest in that are a hell of a lot better.
Okay, so let's talk about this. If you had $30,000 to invest in a stock, 2 stocks for the next 2 years, or 1 stock. If you had 1 stock to invest in the next 2 years, what would it be?
I hate to take your pick, but
say it. Sorry.
Taiwan Semiconductor. I think they are the most important company on planet Earth right now, next to NVIDIA. But Taiwan Semiconductor, I think, is incredibly important in us winning that AI race, quantum race, and all things AI. And it's had a deep enough discount where I like it. If I can get it at 158, I would love it. Even at 162, I will buy in and I will hold for long term. Intel's done. TSM is better than Intel by far. Please stop asking. I've been on this tirade for 2 years. So Taiwan Semiconductor is the one that I would go with for sure. No, it doesn't mean sell Apple. No, it does not mean to sell NVIDIA or Microsoft. Please, no, it doesn't mean sell VO. But if I have to start from scratch right now, TSM for sure.
I'm not going to argue with you on this one, man. I'm actually, those are the two. Yeah. If it was 30K, if it was 50K, whatever the K was, those would be my two, especially. And I covered this on the last class. I said AI is still a story. Don't get fooled. AI is still a story. I know we went back and forth last week about the AI trade, but it's still a story. And definitely for the next 2 years, it's going to be when we talk about the expansion of artificial intelligence, when we talk about inferencing, and that was something we spoke about. It's here. You know, we got Carnegie Hall and we saw it firsthand. And every time we go to a new space, it's you're starting to see the remnants of it. But But yeah, I mean, Blackwell for sure. And we're talking about NVIDIA's case. We're going to see what that does. It's sold out. Now there's a Blackwell Ultra. So you can understand.
Ultra black.
Right, ultra. We're going ultra black on these folks. And then you still got Ruben. You still got Ruben sitting in the waiting to be deployed to the people. Hopper is still moving, right? There would be no DeepSeek story if there wasn't a Hopper chip. So that's still the story, and none of that happens if they can't be manufactured by the company that we just named, TSM.
Yeah.
So those are for the next 2 years for sure. If you asked me 5, I might have gave you maybe a different slight alteration, but the next 2, when we're talking about data centers, when we're talking about prompt engineering, when we're talking about personal agents, those 2 are going to be the story for sure.
Yeah. Rashad, what about you? Is there one that you love that if you were people love this question. If you're down to your last dollar, your last 30,000, which one would you invest into?
Well, the first before that, because the pushback for TSM that people are going to say is, what about the geopolitical risk of China? And they've already have tremendous aggression towards Taiwan. So for the people that are saying the risk of China invading Taiwan or China trying to cyber hack or bully or whatever, what is the threat to TSM with China having such aggression towards Taiwan?
I think I was one of the ones who probably brought up the threat first, but I think it's pretty clear. Under Biden, this may not have happened, but if China chooses to invade Taiwan to take back what they believe is theirs, Big T gonna hit that button Drake should have hit on Kendrick.
That's the red button.
What button?
We can't. This is like if SGA is like a free agent, and LA is like, come on. This piece is the piece on a chessboard that matters for the race, that matters because the war won't be boots on ground like you talked about before.
But what button are you referring to?
like Pinky in the Brain? Pinky in the
Every
Brain.
drone we have in sight, and Captain America and Blackton America, Thor, all them little weapons we have.
Well, we can't go to war with China.
Oh, he gonna hit.
No, that's not sustainable.
Suicide.
That's not sustainable. That the whole world's going. First of all, that'll ruin the entire world. Second of all, that's a war that
the war would. I think the invasion of Taiwan semiconductor would affect that. It will
cause World War III.
It affects the world, but it doesn't. And just China's going to be in control now.
Nah, I think that
China's going to be in control now, which they are already creeping into control now. Anyway, that would be like cherry on top. Like, okay,
but that's what I'm saying. As soon as
you got the throne, like you have the throne now.
They won't let them get it.
They have it.
No, I'm talking about TSM in terms of that's why it's like open door. And Xi Jinping was saying like these guys, America has now allowed them to build whatever they want, give them tax incentives to now bring their foundries to the U.S. So it originally started as $28 billion. Now it went up to $60 billion. Last month it was another $100 billion project. So they've built nearly as much infrastructure, or will have as much infrastructure as they had in Taiwan, up and running in the next 5 years on the domestic land of the United States. And so in the event that there's an invasion, business still gonna run.
No, it's still gonna have a major impact though. If China invades Taiwan,
for sure.
Because if China invades Taiwan, they're taking Taiwan. There's no. This is like if the United States of America invades Aruba. Like if China really decides that they're gonna deal with the consequences later, and today is the day that they fully just take Taiwan under their control, there's nothing that anybody can do about it. Now you got to start playing the diplomatic game, and you got to sanction China, and you got to try to get them, and you got to try to do it that way. But they can literally just take Taiwan at any point in time if they want. There's consequences if they do that. That's why they haven't done that. But there's no fight. It's not going to be a Ukraine war. It's going to be a 2-day.
Would it be beneficial
to who?
For China?
Yeah, in terms of, let's say they shut down a TSM until they have full control over it, right? What does that do to their semi economy?
It
I don't
helps.
think they care about their economy. Like the most dangerous person to fight is a person who doesn't care if they die. That's
True.
China. So, like, if they don't care about being defeated, because if that's the case, they wouldn't have had their market so constricted the last 3 or 4 years. They could have taken pole position from Amazon with Alibaba, and they chose to shut it down. So it's very interesting.
Until recently.
Yep.
And it's just
And that was, I think it was the CEO. It was the owner of the Brooklyn Nets. I forget his name. His name's slipping. But he said Xi Jinping called everybody in, all the CEOs of the major companies, and called them in. He said, "Look, this is the time. Like right now is the time. Like AI is the story, and we have to figure out how we're going to lead and how we're going to build infrastructure to make sure that we stay in this race." Called them all in. Since that meeting, we've seen now this Fantastic Four have a nice run with Tencent and Baidu and Alibaba. So they understand what's at stake here, right? Like we're not.
What's at stake with what?
Number one, they can't. This is a race that they definitely want to win. Now, this administration said there's no way that anyone will ever defeat us in this AI race because of the infrastructure and the companies that we have. But they all decide to figure out, like, yeah, we're going to work together. I don't know if that's what I'm saying. An invasion at this point. Does a war or the threat of war, is that good for business?
When you say work together, what do you mean?
The CEOs of the Chinese companies, CEOs of Chinese companies.
Yeah, they're telling America, y'all better get down and lay down.
Yeah, China doesn't want to be in competition with America. Yeah. They want to be over America. That is their goal. Their goal is not to be in friendly competition with America. Their goal is to be the number one superpower in the world. And they have the largest military in the world right now. They're going to have the largest economy in the world in at least 5 years. They're already ahead as far as technology. If they're not ahead of America now, they'll be far ahead in the next 5 to 10 years. It won't even be close as far as the technology gap. They've already strategically placed themselves all over the world and are controlling economies from Africa to the Caribbean to South America. They're all over the world. They have a plan to be America 2.0. They don't?
I'm still thinking in terms of the greatest companies in the world is still where?
Here, but if they get that piece on the chessboard, which I've been screaming.
Which one of them is the piece?
Taiwan.
You're talking about that piece? Oh, the TSM, that piece?
What?
Because if you think about
the last Infinity Stone. And they feel like culturally Taiwan is theirs. It was stripped away.
The superpowers will control the technological advances, right? You agree?
Say that again.
I said the superpowers, I guess the Mag 7, we can call it, they will control the technological advances over the next 5-10 years. Or they're going to purchase the company that does via OpenAI, Microsoft.
Yeah, but you can have great companies on your soil and still not be the number one country in the world. Like America still has great companies, but they still got to answer to China. And if China is the most dominant in technology, the most dominant army, the most influential on a global scale, I mean, it's just like Japan. Japan has a lot of great companies, but they have no real power.
No, I said the greatest companies, though. So, like, if we're talking market cap,
we're always going to have the greatest companies, but to Rashad's point, okay, we have the greatest companies on earth with the worst fucking spending habits of any large nation ever. I don't like that stuff Elon doing. The Doge conversation, though, the debt to GDP ratio being what it is, it needs to be some cuts happening. They just want to cut everything black first. I don't like that part. But there has to be credit card debt is at an all-time high. Government spending at an all-time high. Housing, like there's no more affordable anything damn near. Like if I was 19 or 20 living in this world right now, oh my God. Tough. And while India, we built up middle class, we built up China, sold off some important parts of tech. And for you Bitcoin maxis, China owns almost as much Bitcoin as us as well. You know, Michael Saylor, he's going to take his ass right to Shanghai if things get hot here.
It's going to be like the Dark Knight.
Right out of here. So we have some issues that we need to fix for sure.
So who you two?
Is it 2 or 1?
2.
So who's your 2?
Well, he said my 2. He said
He
NVIDIA and
said-
TSM.
Well, Bitcoin for sure. Because when we talk about all of these things, they're all dependent on a country, and they're dependent on a variety of different global political, geopolitical moves. And that's really the brilliance behind Bitcoin, is that whoever designed it, whether it was the CIA or whether it was Satoshi or whether it was the Communist Party of China, whoever designed this thing is actually a genius.
Who owns the
Because-
trademark of Satoshi Nakamoto? Not to cut you off.
Who owns it?
I don't know.
Dennis Rodman?
Scottie Pippen knows.
I Pippen know him. I call Scotty.
Go ahead with your point. You cooking? Go ahead.
Whoever, they've designed it to outlast everything, right?
For
And there's
sure.
going to be issues here and there, but you can't say, okay, we're going to crack down. Like they could say they're going to crack down on Taiwan. That's going to cause problems. How can you crack down on something that doesn't even exist? Crack down on air. They've tried it before. China's tried it. Russia's tried it. It hasn't worked because it's not like one particular. You can't have sanctions on it. You can't have tariffs on it. You can't strike down leadership. Only thing that can compromise it is if it gets compromised as far as the technology gets compromised.
Yeah.
Right? If there's a massive data breach and everybody's wallet is now open, and that's where the quantum computing comes into play.
Or mass seizures, which the U.S. did.
Well, they do. They've been doing that from the beginning.
Yeah, been doing that for a minute.
Yeah, they've been doing. That's how they got all their Bitcoin.
So I'm saying,
But
this is-
it still hasn't affected it. So I just feel like when you think about the future, I don't know, 2 years, anything can happen. It could be a negative 2 years, but just in general,
Yeah. That was,
just
damn, man. Why you let me? I was going to go there. 'Cause
What?
if we're talking about the next 2 years and the cycle of it, this year should be good, but the next year probably will be negative.
yeah,
in
if
terms of Bitcoin.
cycles
Good time to
repeat
invest
itself,
into it.
but even like you
Right.
know,
That's the other part.
at some point we're not going to have the same cycle. It's not going to work the same way. So even the sample size that we have is a relatively short period of time. It's only 15 years. So that's traditionally what has happened, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen every single 4 years. Is going to be the same exact 4 years going forward. There's going to be some outlier at some point in time.
Are you
We
saying
have-
that because the hedge fund buying influence and the governmental influence now?
That's one of the reasons for sure, because it's the scales have changed, right?
For
When you got BlackRock that owns that much, even MicroStrategy that owns that much, right? Like
Yeah.
now it's going to take what BlackRock wants to happen is going to happen.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. Worldwide.
Yeah, the man with the
Yeah.
goal makes the rules. So
For
They got-
sure.
they got
Digital or physical.
that's a fact. They got banked right now, but yeah, you gotta look to them for sure. And then Nvidia has continued to lead the race when it comes to and they're still number one. They've had some challenges, and it might not be as great as it was for the last 5 years, but for all intents and purposes, artificial intelligence seems like it's only going to get bigger. And that's one thing that Jensen was talking about as far as now the next stage is rational AI, where you can actually have a conversation. I was talking to my contractor the other day, and I was telling him, like, at what point are these laborers going to be replaced by AI machines? And he was like, never, that's never going to happen. And I'm like, why do you think that? And he was like, because they can't, it's on the job decisions, split decisions that
Mm-mm.
the person has to make that AI can't make. And I'm like, well, on a certain level right now, that's kind of true. Because even in ChatGPT, you ask it questions, some questions it doesn't answer. But at some point in time, every question that you ask it is going to be able to answer. The reason why it doesn't answer the questions now, because some questions can't be answered. So you have to take an opinion. You have to take an opinion, right? But at some point in time, it's gonna be opinion. And that's dangerous.
You can upload a big enough data set.
Yeah, it's gonna
now
have
the issue, the robots may not have the skill set to hang drywall and prime and tape mud sand, but if they get there and you can upload enough data and computational set,
Yeah, but I think the functionality
It's doing-
is the flexibility aspect of it, right? Like if you start to have robots, how we think of robots is a metal machine that's difficult to kind of screw in. But what if a robot becomes a person with and is operating like me? Like, you know what I mean?
They're doing it now. Like this was literally on Good Morning America 2 weeks ago or last week. They're building a town in Texas right now, all on AI. Right, the machine is actually layering the foundation. Is layering. There's no drywall anymore, so it's all cement homes, and they're built. People are living in these towns right now, and so the idea of having contractors be there for 6 months to a year. This is the test for it right now. They're building a whole town, and it's going to be solar. I know we talked about solar last week, but it's going to be solar, and those houses are being built in 2 months. A town. Like it's incredible. But this is technology. This is how it infiltrates an industry, and it can take over. And do it more efficiently.
And for those who think that your skill set or job will not be affected by AI, just go play with Claude or ChatGPT 03 and just see. Like Ty was showing me some stuff yesterday and building stuff in 45 minutes that would take a small team maybe 2 or 3 years ago, 2 or 3 months to build. It's going to have an effect on every, and you have to just learn how to use it to make yourself better as well. Yeah. But you can't act like it's not going to have an impact on our lives. It's already doing it.
Yeah, fact. And no job is 100% safe.
No.
So
no.
Yeah.
Now, I just the last point on the Bitcoin, the every 4-year thing. Yes, the cycle will at some point it could break, but the reason it's doing it is because of it's based on its halving, right? So every 4 years it halves, and that's why they count it as a 4-year cycle, because every time that it halves, there's less Bitcoin supply in the chain. So there's a method to it, which is why they calculate every 4 years.
I also think that Bitcoin now is related to the global economy as well, where at some level it might have been insulated when it was a smaller. Now it's directly related. So if there's a global recession, Bitcoin is going to fall as well. It doesn't move opposite.
Not the hedge it used to be.
Yep. Right. Exactly. Well, we'll see. Okay. What about the stock?
We may be due for a little correction. And that's the one thing I can't say for the Trump administration, for the few Republicans that we have. I wonder if they'll report the data correctly now that he's in office, opposed to when Biden was in office. I don't think they're gonna let him move that 2 quarters of negative GDP while he's there. Allegedly.
He's pacing for it right now. It's quarter number 1. A few weeks away.
What has been a hedge is gold. Reached all-time highs of 3,000. And that's something that even Mike Novogratz was talking to us about before the election. He said that he said a variety of different things. He said that he thought that the stock market was going to go up real quickly when Trump got elected, if Trump won, and then it's going to go down, which essentially that's what's happened so far. And he said he thought it was going to be the inverse if Harris won. And then he also said that if stocks go down, he thinks gold is going to go up. He said gold and Bitcoin. Well, he said he thinks gold is going to go up. And I asked him exactly, like, what do you think? How high? And he said he could see gold getting to 10,000 in 10 years.
Got you.
Thanks.
That's
10,000 and how long?
10 years. 10 years. That's like triple. I mean, that's like the ultimate. That's a very, very bullish. He didn't like guarantee that, but he said like there was a case in the world where gold can get to 10,000 and in 10 years. So what about gold?
I did an interesting exercise in Telegram in Stock Club. If you look at gold, it's very comparable with the S&P 500. Of course, it's outpacing it. So you can argue that gold is a safer investment than NASDAQ or the Dow or S&P, because there's a group that uses gold as a hedge, and because there's real value there, it doesn't drop as much. Now, of course, you had some periods in 2014, 2013 where it was down a lot. But gold has done incredibly well. And I think opposed to looking at it as solely a hedge, maybe we have to have the conversation about using it as a primary investment vehicle. It being at 3,000, it just okay. For everyone who doesn't know, Novogratz is a billionaire. I know there's some people like, well, he was wrong about one thing, so all advice doesn't matter. He savvy investor. So if he's saying it can get to 10,000 and he's saying that publicly, the real number may be 12,000. Which would mean if we slide for 2 quarters, we're definitely going to slide into 27. So we may have a 3-year route where things are bad, which would be incredibly fascinating. So the gold is definitely a good investment. If you look at the long-term stock going back to 2000, 2005, 2008, the return has been amazing. In 2008, it was at 716. We're currently at 3,000. It's performed better than the S&P 500 and the Dow. So you definitely got to put it on your watch list for sure. And shout out to everyone who's been holding gold. I know Keys has been big on gold. He was the first person I thought of when we broke 3,000. So it's a good asset. But all assets tend to trend the same way.
All right.
Yeah.
Stock club sale. There's 1 day left. 50% off stock club. Go to ianinvest.com. ianinvest.com. Where to get the prices.
You're there to get the stocks and the prices, not to be my best friend. It doesn't entitle you to a date or to be my lover. I just want to be real clear for when you join. So I'll be like, yo, I got a question. Do you think me and you can hang out on the Brooklyn Bridge? No. We're not going to get a chopped cheese because you paid the half off price. I'm sorry. I love you dearly. We'll do a meetup in the future, but the solo hangout.
The Brooklyn Bridge play.
Sorry.
Grab a
I saw
slice
you
of
in Tribeca. I tried to. Nope.
Tribeca to play.
Mhm.
Okay. What about stock OKLO?
Unlike the other stock that we talked about earlier, I like it a little bit more, but when you hit homework assignment for everyone, go to your chart and look since inception. So it had a nice run up starting in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a high of 55. It's currently at 28.
Mm-hmm.
So the trajectory is better, but I don't like when a stock has a sharp increase and sharp decline. I don't hate this one as much as the other. I would not invest in it, but maybe if I was looking to buy it back in at 15 or 18, I wouldn't mind holding it. But I hate when the stock goes from 12 to 50, then it goes from 50 back down to 15. I don't like that kind of erratic nature in my portfolio. So a swing trade, maybe. Like a day trade on it or a bounce off of a key level, yes. But to hold it long term, I wouldn't touch it because you have to look from 2021 through 24. It was damn near flat for 3 years. So
yeah,
no.
This is we spoke about this stock maybe a couple of months ago, 6 months ago. It's crazy because 6 months ago it is risen 343%.
Yeah.
Even though it's falling back down here. This is one of those energy plays when we talk about, especially in AI, and we talk about data centers and how they're going to be powered. This is a recycled nuclear fuel company, and so this really speaks about efficiency. Who's going to do it? How's it going to be powered? Is it going to be nuclear, which they think from all talks and all analysts are saying that's the most efficient way to do it. And so you can see that run up is okay. Hey, if we're going to create data centers and somebody's going to do them, and we could talk about the expansion of them, and we talked about Meta doing 27 of them, and Tesla's building them. Well, somebody has to power them, and so this is a company that may be a beneficiary if we're talking about next generation in terms of efficiency and waste. They could be one of those companies that is a beneficiary of that, because right now they're kind of in a leader position in terms of recycled nuclear fuel. If that's going to be the way of future data center powering, this makes sense, which is why it had sat still since 2021, right?
Yeah.
People, when would we use it? When would we use it? We're still using gas. We're still using. now there's a new wave of how we need to do this, and there's a new system of power that's going to be on the grid. People be talking about the grid, American energy grid. It's pretty alarming, man. And all signs are pointing that it's only going to increase with all the type of infrastructure that they're talking about building for future technology. So yeah, keep your eye on this company. Understandably, why it's moving kind of like in this mountain that's on the decline. But I'm not invested in it, but I would definitely watch it over the next couple of months, definitely into 2026, but definitely in 2026, 2027, as we start to see more things come online, more settings come online. Look for this to be one of the ways that we power on.
And back to your point, Rashad, about China, our power grid is old as hell. Like, infrastructure wise, way behind. Like, man, we had the little hurricane in Houston last year. They still have not swapped out. We still got cables above streets in Houston. Like, oh my God, man. So
most
much
places is cables above.
And a power grid. When's the last time, for those of you in the field, that in most major cities that the power infrastructure has been upgraded? Not good. Not good. Prayers to everyone that lost family or lost property or had property damage with all those tornadoes. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah. But we built up India's middle class in fucking 15 years.
It's a fact.
Crazy.
That is a fact. Okay. Speaking of data centers, given the importance of data centers' current trajectory, what's your thoughts on Equinix?
This is a sleeper that we have not talked about. I'm going to be very clear that this current price is too high to buy, so $848.96. Hell of a run. I will put it on the watch list, and it's a great lesson. And as a sector becomes important, there are going to be companies that are not talked about, that are really important, that may not be as popular as a Tesla, but this company, even though it's had some ups and downs, if you look over the last few years, they're more stable than Tesla is, and is given a better return. So the ticker is EQIX. In 2019, it was at 371. It's currently at 848. Ticker EQIX. Put on the watch list. I like it a lot. I'm sorry we haven't talked about it more. We should have, but when it comes down to a favorable price, I'll be sure to mention it again. I don't want to always talk about Apple and Microsoft.
Yeah. This is that play. This is the same thing that when we talk about connectivity, when we talked about infrastructure, when we talk about data center, these are those companies, like the ones that nobody speaks of, are going to be beneficiaries of AI development. So yeah. Pretty high right now though.
Equinix is solid.
Do you believe the market bottomed out on I mean, we're still sliding, so you can't have a bottom, but do you think like this is like relatively the bottom? We might go a little lower, or do you think that there's still a lot more room to go?
As an investor, only the paranoid survive. And I know whenever we say that, it gets clipped up. People like, no, there are other people who say you can't be paranoid, but the people who get damaged the most are the ones who think that the end is over until you have a clear sign. Given the erratic nature of leadership in Washington,
I mean, every major hedge fund has raised the chance of us getting into a recession. Warren Buffett still hasn't put his money into the market yet. The global uncertainty has just begun. So
it's growing. Yep.
I would say that there's a probably very good chance that this is not the bottom.
Yep. And even in the prices that I put, and that's why it took me so long to finish the stock club prices, because I want to be sure and accurate. I have some stocks, even like Tesla. I have Tesla going 18% lower from where it is today. Like, so unless the erratic nature changes really fast, even Dow's at 417.
Mm-hmm.
I can see us getting to 385 on the Dow on DIA.
385?
Hypothetically. What do I know? I just make up numbers out of thin air. I have no clue what I'm talking about. But if the tariff situation gets worse, this first quarter is not good, and we get a couple other markets that are negative, the job numbers remain negative, interest rates continue to go up, it won't be a great combination.
It doesn't look promising if you look at all the major indexes, and if you use the EMA, that'd be interesting, right? Like we can't predict the bottom, but we can kind of get a gauge of if we're near it. Yeah,
Yep.
are they all under their 200? Like these are questions you should ask yourself, and I'm sure if you look at charts, you know the answer. Where's their RSI at? Are they oversold? Because these can be oversold, right? Like, is it under 30? Is it under 20? Those are some of the things and factors that you should look at if you're looking at a relative bottom. So we're getting there. We're getting there. The NASDAQ is in correction territory, over 10%. The S&P touched that level, crawled back from it. The Dow, same thing. So based on percentage-wise from its highs, there's a pullback. But again, that floor, I would look at the moving averages. I know you talk about the 72, 200. Some people, you might even want to go out to the 400 if you're looking at a large index like that. The 400 might be an option as well to see where we're at from the 200 to the 400. Maybe take some percentages from there and say, all right, well, this is my floor.
And also when we have more hyper concentration amongst funds, it's a sign. Like even Michael Saylor, his Bitcoin strategies focus on one. You have the big four in China. QQQ is now launching a QQQ 15 index. Well, you got to trim the fat from the ones that are not going to perform well if we go through a downturn. So hyper concentration is a soft indicator too of a potential pullback, not to scare you guys in the market. So
what about PepsiCo?
Love it. $1 billion on a healthy soda brand. Ooh.
Yo, this is mergers and acquisitions, man. Mergers and acquisitions. Yeah, PepsiCo recently purchased Poppy. If you're not familiar with Poppy, it's a carbonated health drink, right? I would call it, I guess they call it a healthy soda. I know like my kids and a lot of schools have it in their cafeterias. They sell it as an alternative to Pepsi and Coke. Kids seem to enjoy it. They have a bunch of flavors. They were a competitor. They were in a space where PepsiCo was getting kicked in the face. And so rather than compete, they said, let's offer them a check, $1.5 billion acquisition that should be closing here shortly. This is a company that started on Shark Tank, bro, in 2018.
I know. 2018.
A Shark Tank company now nearly a $2 billion valuation or $2 billion sale is pretty incredible to a brand. I mean, when you talk about the top two brands in that space, them and Coke obviously sit at the leaderboard. And it's not just those two beverages, right? They have a portfolio of items that they also sell. But I think this is a good acquisition for them.
For sure. We need to make a Bitcoin cola. Bro, $2 billion on a healthy soda. Kudos to you. Shout out to all my entrepreneurs and shout out to Shark Tank. But PepsiCo, very good company. If it gets to 141, 135, I like it for sure. But incredibly run company, great market share, great profit margin for their sector. I definitely like PepsiCo in this environment, in this market. I know for all my health gurus, not the healthiest options, but if we're talking return on investment, Pepsi is a solid investment for sure.
And we gotta say rest in peace to Junior Bridgman, a billionaire, and somebody that we met a few years ago. Had him at InvestFest. He spoke on a panel with Rich Paul, and he passed away last week from, I believe, cardiac arrest. So send our condolences. Sure.
Legend in my hometown. You guys actually broke the news to me. And then word started to spread from everyone back home. But rest in peace to him. Condolences to his family. Hell of an inspiration given him being from my hometown. And all the lives he impacted and affected. So rest in peace. And man, that was a rough little moment for my hometown. So prayers to his family.
Yeah, condolences to him and his entire family. A a beautiful gentleman. We got the pleasure of sitting down with him at InvestFest. But prior to going on the stage, we had the privilege of sitting down with him for a few hours. And he was just picking our brains and enjoying, some of the things that he was seeing at InvestFest. But then got the chance to go to the Kentucky Derby and actually visited one of his estates with his family. Just an incredible dude, incredible family, and more importantly, an incredible legacy that we should definitely pay attention to, emulate. I'm glad that there's more stories coming about. It's unfortunate that it happened after his death, but people are going to be aware of his story from here on, and they should be, because it's an important American story of entrepreneurship, of a family, and of legacy. Like, his kids all work and all have companies inside of the portfolio. So, definitely we're going to be missed.
For sure. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Okay. And speaking of InvestFest, we got something that's big for the streets. We got one thing that's going to be big for the streets. A cultural moment. Popcorn.
Do tell.
A popcorn cultural moment.
Stay tuned.
You care to
stay tuned.
It's gonna be a viral. Let's just say this. We'll tell you after, but it's very viral. Very viral.
Stay tuned.
Very viral.
Okay.
Very viral cultural for the streets.
Okay. It's been a good show. Y'all have a good Monday. Love you.
All right. So Scott Besden on CNBC. Well, actually, let's play this clip if we can.
Top 10% of Americans are 40 or 50% of consumption, and that is an unstable equilibrium. The bottom 50% of working Americans have gotten killed. We are trying to address that. We're trying to get rates down, and could we be seeing that this economy that we inherited starting to roll a bit? Sure. And look, there's going to be a natural adjustment as we move away from public spending to private spending. The market and the economy have just become hooked. We've become addicted to this government spending, and there's going to be a detox period.
Okay. So what do we think about this clip that he says the market and economy have become hooked and addicted to excess government spending?
I agree. Well, I don't agree with every principle or tenet that Elon and Trump may be discussing. I think government spending could be streamlined. I'll say that. And I think we lack some efficiency in some areas. Kudos to everyone who works in the government or maybe employed by the government. This is no slight to you, but I think as a system, there is a systemic problem about how capital is deployed. And I wish that some of these departments will run a lot tighter and cleaner. And hopefully over the next 4 years, we'll get the change to make the debt to GDP ratio come down and cities won't have as many issues in terms of funding. But what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I think a detox is needed. The problem that I have with Doge is how they're going about it. I understand that things need to be more efficient, and even some of the claims that Elon has said and the president has said, I've actually gone and researched it, and all of it is not false. Like, some of the things that they're saying about what is being spent, like I know at the State of the Union, he was naming all of the ways that the government was spending money, and I'm like, let me just go check on it. And I was like, oh wait, I was almost surprised. Like, this is okay. He's not too far off base here. How they're going about it leaves it a mess. Where you have, okay, don't show up, do show up, federal mandates. I know the Department of Education, they're reducing 30% of the staff, then it's 50% of the staff, and then federal judge say you can't do it, and there's a federal judge who overrules that, and it just gets messy. So how it's going to, I mean, people's lives are being affected on a day-to-day basis when it comes to that. So the process of how it's being done, I don't agree with. I do agree with being more efficient on spending. I mean, anybody in business should be focused on becoming more efficient in spending. And the government, obviously, when we talk about the amount of debt we have, the only way to eradicate that is to become more efficient and find other ways to increase income and reduce spending. So I feel like the detox it's going to happen, right? How and when and how efficiently it happens will be the issue.
Yeah.
Do you clean the house from the top or from the bottom?
Whose house? It's a trick question.
You about to cook. Go ahead.
Because I mean, there's ways we need to cut back on spending for sure. But everybody in chat, homework assignment, what is the 2 biggest items that the government spends money on? Okay.
It's above our pay grade. Yep. But
So
you're right.
the biggest item that the government spends money on is Social Security, Medicare, and other mandatory medical spending. And then the second item is defense and military spending. So Social Security and Medicare have been off limits for years. They'll cut Medicaid because that's for poor people. But Medicare and Social Security is a trap that we've been in for years. Social Security statement, if you read your Social Security statement, it said it's going to be insolvent in a few years. It's been saying that for years. That's an issue that nobody wants to tackle politically.
Yeah, politically, it's a death sentence.
They haven't been able to figure that out yet. And kind of put it in perspective, I mean, that's 61% of the budget. 61%, $4.1 trillion. And then defense and military. Defense and military.
61%?
Which categories? Social Security, Medicare, National Defense.
Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Yeah, okay.
And defense spending is $842 billion a year, 12%. And the defense spending aspect, nobody ever thinks about cutting that. Nobody ever talks about cutting defense spending.
Nope.
So it's like, okay, China, once again, going back to China, they have the largest military in the world.
Mm-hmm.
America has the most military bases in the world, hundreds of bases all over the world. China has less than 5. They're efficient. That's an efficient military. That idea of having bases all over the world now with technology, right? Like, is it really beneficial? You're creating bad will. The French are getting kicked out of Africa now. You got all these bases everywhere. You're looking like a colonizer. Nobody wants to have American bases in their country. We got bases in almost every country in the world, including countries we don't even have diplomatic ties with, like Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. We own a part of Cuba. But how much money is that costing to run all these bases? You got to run the base, then you got to have security for the base. So China has relatively no bases. They have no bases. They didn't build. You're not going to see a Chinese military base pretty much anywhere in the world.
Taiwan soon.
Well, they're going to have the whole entire Taiwan as a military base.
Easy.
Artificial intelligence, you can't tell me that you can't replace some of this spending that we're doing on military and all this foreign aid military that we're providing the countries. But it's easier to cut DEI banned programs for $600,000 and $5, and stuff does add up, but that's an easier target than the real issue. The real issue that we have is Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, and the military. That's the real issue that we have. Until those get cut drastically, or until those get revamped totally, it's not going to work. People going to keep living longer. We're going to keep putting ourselves in more and more global conflicts and wars, and so it's not going to work. We're getting sicker as a society.
For sure.
Every year, we're getting sicker and sicker as a society. So until we start addressing real problems, this government spending thing is not going to work. It's just taking a little bit, but it's not making a real impact.
Yeah. And right now, and so the military part is important, but the next line item on the spending, $169 billion, is Department of Veteran Affairs, which you can't be a veteran unless you're in the military.
So that's like part of the military too, technically.
Right. The other reversal is that further down on the item line, $71 billion goes to education.
That's getting cut. That's the cuttable.
Right. Our education, what do we rank? Like 19th or 20th in math and
I think 24th or something like that. Yeah.
And that's getting cut. Yeah. This is an alarming time. Yeah, and these aren't just made up fictional numbers. This is literally from the Fiscal Data Treasury Department .gov. Like, this is an official website. Like, it shows you how much we spent this year. The numbers at just over $3 trillion in 2025.
Damn. That's Social Security.
This year.
That Social Security thing is going to keep. I don't know how they're going to figure it out, because it's not an entitlement. It's not an entitlement if you pay money into a system. How is that an entitlement?
But if you audit that, it may reveal mismanagement. Is that never mind?
Where's the money going?
I tried to stop. But
where's the money going? Where's the money actually going? That's the part that nobody really ever figured out. Because like when I used to do pensions for people, rollovers, if you work a pension plan, most of the time you take a pension. So you take like $2,000 a month. Like, let's say you're a cop, right? They give you a couple different options. They'll give you like, okay, you could take a pension for the rest of your life. That's $3,000, or you could take a pension for 15 years, and that might be $2,000. They give they make it it's irrevocable. Once you make a decision about your pension, you can't change it. Most people just take the monthly because that's what you think of. That's what you're trained to think. But sometimes you can actually take the lump sum and roll into an IRA. So then they'd be like, all right, well, what's the lump sum? A lump sum's $1 million. How do you think that they were going to be able to pay you $3,000 a month? There's a higher number. So as you've worked, your money has gone into a pension. The pension is invested, and then it's giving you $2,000 off of that $1 million, right? Which is going to be invested in, bonds or whatever they're investing the money in. But nobody ever really thinks that. Nobody looks at their pension like their pension is worth $1 million. They look at their pension like, I'm gonna get $2,000 when I retire.
Yeah,
that's the language that union workers use. Like, I'm gonna get 60% of my income, or I'm gonna get $3,000 a month for the rest of my life when I retire. They never say I'm gonna get $2 million, because they don't look at it like that.
Yeah.
So the Social Security number is coming from a higher number that's actually currently invested that we've paid into, but who's managing that portfolio?
You are cooking with hot fish grease right now. Yo.
I don't know.
It's hypothetically the world's biggest index fund, and it's running insolvent.
Or it's the world's biggest index fund. Bernie Madoff did a lot of time in jail.
Easy.
Allegedly.
No P word.
Allegedly.
No, I will not.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
No P word.
No.
Please. Those are dangerous words.
No, my boy.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Beneficiary.
You guys start to think about this stuff.
We can talk about reptilians before we talk about that.
Social Security can you put that as, can a beneficiary receive Social Security?
Can they receive your Social Security?
No.
Like,
no. So
I'm saying, like, you're saying, like,
right,
if your parents have
right,
Social Security.
exactly.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think it's transferable.
So, like, that's what I'm saying. When you think if it's $1 million in the term, if somebody doesn't live, say you retire at 65, but you live to 75, that's not, obviously you're not getting $1 million. You're getting that $3,000 a month for the 10 years, which is nowhere near the $1 million. But what happens to the?
And most people don't even know how Social Security works. They're taking their Social Security early, so they're getting only 60% of it. It's a whole education. Social Security within itself is a whole education that.
It's 68 now, right?
Yeah, they keep moving it.
Yeah, keep moving it.
But so I mean, it's kind of complicated. Like, the vast majority of people, especially you just work a regular 9-to-5 job, you don't really have resources to go to a Social Security. You actually do. You can go to a Social Security office, so people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually go to a Social Security office, and they're supposed to actually educate you on Social Security.
Don't tell them we sent you, though. For the record.
So allegedly.
Yeah, we could talk about so in the reptilians, they have alphas, insectoids. What else they have? They got the 12-foot thing with wings. We talk about anything else with it. You are cooking though. 52 at half, but nope.
All right. Before we leave, one last clip. Andrew Schultz. He's pretty controversial. You know him?
That's my guy.
Okay. He's got a lot of negative attention.
Oh, for sure. Earned too. Earned hate.
Earned, not given. But he has an interesting clip. Let's play this clip.
Every American born gets $1,000 put into a Vanguard
it's a friend
account.
of ours, Brad Gerstner, with this Invest America is the concept.
And regardless if the concept is good or not, the emotional connectivity to the success of American industry is really important. When you know at 22 that you could get this thing that's been compounding for 22 years, you could pay off some college loans, you could put something down on a house, you could pay for trade school, whatever it is. I think you have a different energy towards America and its success. And then you have a lot less of these kids who are just like, America's this horrible place and capitalism is bad. Yeah, capitalism is bad when you're left behind. When you're invested in capitalism, it's
great.
the shit, baby.
Absolutely.
I did an analysis. I wasn't sure if I should put it out, but I'll tell you guys the numbers. The U.S. Social Security program is meant to be kind of the retirement program for folks that don't have access to private retirement accounts. And there's a trust fund. Every year, we all put money in with our Social Security taxes out of our paychecks, goes in there. It gets invested in one thing. U.S. Treasuries, which have averaged about 4.8% return since the beginning of the program per year. Meanwhile,
what if you put it into the market?
Meanwhile, the S&P has been averaging 11%. So here's the math. If in 1971, which was the year that we went off the gold standard in the United States, if we invested the Social Security Trust Fund in the S&P, the balance of the Social Security Trust Fund today would be $15 trillion. That would be roughly 1/3 of the value of the total S&P 500, which would be jointly owned by all Americans. Now, here's what's up. The middle-class people who had access to private retirement accounts benefited by buying the S&P 500, and the wealthy were able to access it. So all of the equity value that accrued from American enterprise and the prosperity of the American system accrued to the people that had access to the private accounts. Meanwhile, the people that only had access to the public accounts got stuck owning treasuries. Today, the Social Security Trust Fund has $2.7 trillion balance, and based on the outflows and inflows, it's going to go bankrupt in 2032. That means Social Security is either going to get cut, or the Fed's going to print a ton of money to keep Social Security benefits.
Retirement age goes up a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of levers. Yeah.
Wow.
So I did the math. If you assume that the S&P 500 continues to grow at 10.5% a year, we could put about $500 billion in the trust fund today, and it will not go bankrupt again. And it will continue to grow every year. And then all Americans have participation in American enterprise. And importantly, this becomes the world's largest sovereign wealth fund ever. You don't need a separate sovereign wealth fund. We already have one.
It's called
the Social Security Trust Fund. And what we've done is we've totally mismanaged it. So basically, we've created, through the Social Security system, the deep inequity we see in this country. If instead we had allowed the Social Security system to invest in the S&P 500, to buy American enterprises, to fund American businesses, then every American would be wealthy, and that middle class that uniquely participated by basically arbitraging the market, where they forced the treasury bond yields on the poor and they got to take access to the equity yields, would have not.
Okay. Baby bonds, something that we've talked about before. And this is actually something that we talked about in an early EY.
I think our second episode.
And I think it might have been RFK Jr. that he might have championed baby
No,
bonds.
that was Cory Booker.
Yeah, Cory Booker.
Yeah, out in Jersey. When he announced it, this is 2019. He had this idea. I think he was trying to run for president at that time?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, he was in consideration.
Yeah.
So baby bonds, pretty much. You give everybody when they're born $1,000. And they said that that's actually one way to kind of help the racial wealth gap, because even though everybody gets the same amount of money, it'll help people that traditionally have less. Like $1,000 to you is not going to change your life, right? But $1,000 to somebody like in poverty, over the course of time, that grows to what, $20,000. That's life changing. That could be life changing. $20,000 when they turn 18.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your thoughts on that?
I know Andrew gets a lot of controversy. Shout out to him and Calican. It's actually Brad Gerstner's idea. But I think it would be a great way to get people to not only have, because after the financial literacy part, we need financial systems for the people. As things are eroding, the job market is eroding, inequalities and those wealth gaps are getting wider. I think it's a great idea. I also think too, we should have a hedge fund manager for the people. that will allow them to get a higher gains. Because like you said, $1,000 into VOO may not change your life from 1 to 30, let's say, if you're allowed to liquidate at the time. Going to your point earlier, the point that we have to figure out though is who would manage it, and when it's time to draw the money, will all of it be there? But I think as an initial step, I always thought it was a mistake for everyone not to have access to the markets and have money invested for them upon graduation of high school or of college. But what do you guys think?
I think that makes a lot of sense. How we do it, we just came from. It's crazy. Like when I think about 5 years ago, when we were trying to figure out people are not going to be able to get jobs, there was a stimulus check, right? Every American, pretty much, if you made a certain amount, you got a stimulus check. Well, that same process, obviously, that has to come from somewhere. Which, if it doesn't, it leads to the amount of spending. But if that process was put in for every kid that was born, right? Even if we're talking about compounded interest over 18 years, it's a substantial amount of money that a kid who's born with little to nothing, right, or below, I guess, poverty lines in terms of household income, that changes everything for you. That could be you starting a business. That could lower you going to college and what that's going to cost. It could change decisions for you. Why we haven't done it?
That's another conversation.
Yeah, that's another conversation. But when it was first introduced, we kind of sat, and I remember we were just like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. It's probably not going to happen. And it didn't happen. But I like it. I like it. Can it be implemented? I'm sure it can. Will it be implemented? Another episode.
Yeah, I think it's mandatory that they take financial literacy class before they can get money, though, because if that's the case, you're just going to end up blowing it anyway. So,
yeah.
Okay. Been real.
Rashad, yep. Nope. Time out.
It's been real.
You got me cooking. Listen, ooh, broadcast of the year. But no.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be on the road this week. Want to say where we're going to be?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Market Mondays crew is hitting the road. We are going to San Jose tomorrow. We have been invited to the NVIDIA GTC conference.
Yes.
Jensen will be giving his keynote. We will be in attendance as VIP attendees. And we also have the privilege of speaking on a panel this week at GTC. We'll be on Thursday. So we'll put the links in bios and on Instagram so y'all can check us out. And yeah, we might go live to report what's happening. We said that this is the most important company and definitely the most important CEO, or not one of the most important CEOs of this decade and definitely of this year, especially in terms of AI. And so everything Blackwell, everything Ultra Blackwell. And on Thursday, big day is they are labeling it Quantum Day at NVIDIA.
Quantum Day. Ooh.
Yeah.
QBTS. Figure out something else to go to.
I know we've been critical and we've had our thoughts about quantum, and Jensen actually expedited that by saying that it's 30 years away, but here we are 2 months later. He's having a quantum day. And so I think it's important to understand the companies that'll be there and the CEOs that are going to be on the stage with them. So D-Wave Quantum will be in attendance with their CEO will be there. Rigetti will be on part of the panel as well. And IonQ, their CEO will be there. All 8 CEOs that have a major role in the quantum computing and quantum computing sector will be in attendance with Jensen. So I'm sure there will be plenty of announcements, and we'll be there bringing it to you first. So shout out to the good folks at NVIDIA, my guy Lewis. Shout out to Aman for putting us together. I know he was here on Market Mondays and introduced us to the people there. So yeah, we'll be there, man. We appreciate it, and we look forward to it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am as well. Like you say, keep your head down, avoid don't pay attention to the noise, and keep working. Yeah.
They watching.
Sure.
Just when you think they watching.
That's why I told Rashad, hey, that conversation, bro.
They watching.
Nope. That's a private conversation.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Go to ianinvest.com. 24 hours left. Check us out on Blackout on Wednesday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Bryant. It's going to be dope. Conversation about relationships. And yeah, let's get it.
Yeah. Shout out to all my Pisces. I know Pisces season is coming to an end. Winter is coming to an end this week. Shout out to all the I know Jatali had a birthday. Shout out to Black Sam, man. Yo, man, this did another marathon. This dude ran the marathon in sweats.
Marathon continues. Happy birthday to my brother Drew. His birthday is on
From Philly.
20th. Yeah, love you, my
Happy
brother.
birthday, Drew. We gotta come check the restaurant out, my brother.
Yeah,
that's a fact. That's a fact, man. Be good to each other. Reach out.
Atlanta. We're gonna be in Atlanta this weekend.
Oh yeah.
University.
Fact.
We got a meetup. EYO University meetup in Atlanta this weekend, so we'll be in ATL. Shout out to Atlanta.
Yeah, and later we are on the way. Be good. Reach out. One text, one phone call could change the trajectory of somebody's day and definitely somebody's life, man. So be good to each other. We see y'all next week. Blackout on Wednesday. Make sure y'all tap in. It's gonna be a good one.